Hello again, everyone. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Leadership Synergized. And I'm so pleased to have, and we are also blessed to have Dr. Rob Haworth back with us for a second episode. We heard from Dr. Haworth last week about his experiences in leadership, and he also shared some great stories with Dr. John Wooden that we're going to build on in this episode. Leadership Synergized is all around showcasing leaders who have got it, have done it, continue to get it, continue to serve, continue to transform, and provide opportunities for all of us to learn from. Because as Dr. Haworth knows, his experiences and reference point of meeting Coach John Wooden, sharing some words of wisdom that he shared back with him and his crew, John Wooden never quit learning. Dr. Haworth, he was learning right up to the end, and he's still teaching us today after all this time. And one of the aspects that I'd just be curious for your vision on is that sometimes I believe in our world around us today, it's a challenge for leaders because the appreciation for body of work, such as what Coach Wooden gave then, and quite honestly still gives now to all of us that read and understand, and you bringing Coach Wooden up to other generations through this medium, having that impact. But what a body of work. To me, a body of work still matters.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. And, I think that's the nature of what you're doing here, Kevin. Those lessons will never die as long as you and I continue to talk about them and bring them up and applying our life experiences through the lens of those lessons. And as I walk away from that, probably young in my career, I had done the research. I had looked at the data. And so I'm going to bring the solution and I'm going to orchestrate the outcome. And I wish I could go back and say, Rob, it's never about the I. And I quickly learned, starting with those experiences in French Lick West Baden, it was the we that mattered the most. And how do you take that approach? One of the charges that the NAIA had when I went there, I was fortunate. My dissertation work to begin my superintendent's license was on character development through athletics. And so when I went to the NAIA, they were wanting to change the culture of sport. And you think about that task that's so difficult, but where were they going to go? They were going to go to coaches. If we can change how coaches interact. So imagine trying to create as many John Woodens as you possibly could. And knowing that if we can do that, all the athletes that have that exposure to that type of coach, how are they going to walk into the corporate world? How are they going to walk into the schools across our country? And so that charge was very much we oriented. So you started bringing coaches, college presidents from across the country. Great work that had already been done by the NAIA, by the way. I was just at a place where I got to take the baton here, hopefully ran it a lap and gave it to somebody else. But it was very much that we concept that I wish I would have known or leaned on. I was always familiar with the no I in team, but probably was focused more on Michael Jordan's definition of I and win, but realizing probably needed to be more like Coach Wooden in that regard.
We've talked, Dr. Haworth, a bit, and you watched some of our previous episodes. The whole mind share around the concept that we're involved with today, you can see in the backdrop still. Taking the word still, Coach Wooden used to tell his players, be quick, don't hurry. Mm-hmm. But we're told to keep moving forward. And I know to your point, I can reflect back and see where I stepped into traps because I was going too fast with multitasking and missed out on just slowing down a bit, because to serve others the best, we've got to also serve ourselves. Talk a bit about the challenges that you've faced in your career and how you've got past them and not losing sight of building and developing your own value to raise it to a higher level to offer to others.
Yeah, I would, if I were at a new teacher orientation early on in my career, the message would have probably been, I need you to arrive early and I need you to stay late. To where it probably evolved was, hey, we're all juggling some balls. And as a school corporation, we're in transition, but I want you to know that I understand you're in transition as well as a teacher. And so as you're juggling those balls, there is the work that you have to do as an educator. So you're juggling that one. But then there is that faith component of who you are. And then there is that mom or dad or brother or son component. And so when you think about all those balls that you're juggling, you have to remember which ones don't bounce if they hit the ground. And that's probably different for everyone in that room. But that's the message that my 50-year-old leadership model would speak to, that those young educators, as opposed to make sure you're here. I'm getting here at 6:30. Love to see you pull in the parking lot at 6:45. I'm departing from school at 6:45 that evening and love to still see your car in the parking lot. And don't get me wrong, you and I both know there are plenty of educators out there who still do that. But that balance that those young educators need to have in their life allows them to have the energy to be able to come in and deliver every day for their students. And you can't do that if you're tired and exhausted. But you're right. I think those pieces are things that you picked up along the way. Just didn't wake up one morning and thought, here's a leadership style we'll put out in front of folks.
I like that. Thank you, Dr. Haworth. And you've referenced your 33 years or so in education with the NAIA. And now, as we see over your shoulder, it's the United Way. You're leading the United Way in Allen County. And talk a bit about what led you there and how your leadership maybe is different or the same from what you've had previously.
Yeah, if you think about kind of the tours that I've done, really probably cause-driven in every one of those. So rural and urban component to it. But that intersection of United Way and my experiences in Elkhart County and my experiences in Vigo County and Terre Haute. United Way was when you looked for a friend, when you needed some funding because you had a program that was wanting to do something in early education or something after school. United Way was always there, always felt like a great partner. When looking at our son graduating from high school, the idea of empty nesters and trying to peel back all those things that are important to education, we knew that as a team, Amy and I wanted to be able to impact those things that we had seen in some of our settings that really kept young people from getting as much as they possibly could out of their educational journey. And so we started to look for what that opportunity would be. I knew there was an encore career for me. I was not going to stop and start playing golf. And so we started to look for those possibilities, and we started to look at nonprofits that we had experience with. Just the good fortune to end up here in Allen County and in Fort Wayne, to where we were in a meeting yesterday and we were talking about the 1,200 homeless students that are found within Fort Wayne community schools. That's just not all of Allen County, that's just Fort Wayne. And leads you to the point where, yeah, that's the lane I want to be in. How can I use what I have in this encore career, maybe the connections that I have from across the state of Indiana, to help that situation? Or if you're talking about food insecurity, you're talking about with mental health, or you're talking about pathways, how are you going to help a young person, as opposed to some of the other things that you are involved in day to day as a public school superintendent. It really allows you to get to root causes that maybe are blocking. So Amy and I knew that this was going to be the right location. And again, humbled that the United Way here would take a chance on somebody who had not come up through that system. And so we've got a great board here. I've got a great team who very much like that early experience in French Lick, West Baden with Springs Valley Community Schools. They're helping me right now become a better CEO every day.
Well, as I hear that, and Dr. Haworth, I've said this with some other guests, but I recall John Maxwell promotes that the first person we have to learn how to lead is ourselves. And what you just hit upon, and I agree with this 100%, we have to relearn depending on the situations that we're in, whether it's being a father, a grandfather, a spouse, a superintendent, a worker. But leadership isn't, okay, I've got this job, now let's just go be a leader, or I'm a father now or a grandfather, and I'm just going to lead. There's always shifting and learning, and it needs to start with us if we're going to truly be able to serve others to the value level that they deserve.
Yeah, and grounded in, Kevin, I would say, in those hard lessons that you learned as a young person. If I think about my experience with the NAI, we talked a great deal about a core value of integrity. We talked about, and that's really about you. If you think about your social character, if you think about your value-driven character, integrity is really about you, and it's not somebody from the outside. That's you, and building upon that. So who's the person right in front of you? And what's that core block? If you think about a leader, well, that's respect. If you're thinking about who you are as a basketball coach, that's respect for the official. That's respect for who is in that arena. But that's true in life. So here in the workplace, whether I'm in a public school or here, it's coming every day, bringing integrity and respect, and then you build out from that. So then there is the responsibility of the job, Kevin. It is then not just myself, it's just not the person in front of me, it's the responsibility or charge that I have been given. So here we have a small office. So what is my responsibility to my team here? And then I would cap that off with servant leadership. And so it begins with me and then the person right in front of me and the responsibility that I have to that group. What then is that group's responsibility to the larger community? And so if you take that approach and you walk into any organization, I think those become the building blocks for success, whether you're at the for-profit level, the nonprofit level, in the political arena. And so you build upon always learning and using those as your building blocks.
Thank you, Dr. Haworth. And something you just said there about accepting, recognizing the responsibility takes me back to legacy. You're in this position of CEO now, and you're respecting the legacy of those who have come before you and have worked with the United Way to get it to where it is today in that regard. And that's so important for developing leaders to not forget about the sweat, the tears, the challenges, the agony maybe that others that had that position or role prior to have went through to deliver what Dr. Haworth guides with his team today.
Yeah, so true for many United Ways across the country, but particularly true for us. We just celebrated our 100th birthday of service to
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
And yeah, but to your point, the legacy of everyone that came before. And so the opportunity to stop and to reflect on how this organization evolved, grew, impact into the community. We have a person that leads our community impact, a vice president with us, Tiffany Bailey. So out of that 100 years, she's given 20 years of service to United Way. Celebrates that that 20th anniversary at the end of this month. But again, I'll go back to my track and field days. It's the baton. So they've given me the baton. I'm going to run my leg. And how do and I know Kevin feel the same way, how do I leave it better than I found it? Mm. And what that means in a number of different ways, financially, having an impact over our charge here in Allen County within Northeast Indiana. What does that look like? And so we honor that legacy, but we know we've got to move forward. So we're going to take that baton, we're going to run our leg. And then how do you prepare to properly hand that off to whoever is going to get that next? So yeah, legacy is huge here. We just celebrated it, but it also allows you to know, makes you humble, and keeps you humble. And so looking forward to what our leg looks like.
Dr. Haworth, reflecting back here as we get close to the end of this episode on your career, education, 33 years, now the United Way, in both aspects, I believe we could say education is the heartbeat of our world. The United Way is the type of organization that works to inspire and keep those heartbeats beating in that regard. And one of the things that when you look at the STILL title and think of it again as leading through STILL, that I think we need more of, and that's love. Our instructors in classrooms and teachers, I want and hope they can love my grandkids. I don't want someone teaching them that can't love them in that regard. And you're in an opportunity now with the United Way. Everything you are doing, working with the school system there in Fort Wayne, with the homeless, it's about bringing love and transpiring that piece.
Yeah, I think about that every day. So today across Indiana or across the country, parents sent their most precious gift, Kevin, their most precious gift to schools all across this nation, all across the state, or in the community. And how would we want our most precious gift received today? We would want, first and foremost, before there is an economics lesson delivered from the economics team or the English language arts lesson, they want to know that their children are loved and that they're going to interact, they're going to instruct, they're going to discipline. With that as that underlying component, and most precious gifts look different. Most precious gift as a kindergarten student, and you think about that first day of school, but there's most precious gifts that are walking down our hallways that are 6'4" linebackers. But they are a most precious gift, and you're right, we'll long probably forget the economics lesson that I delivered on supply and demand, and how did we make that young person feel when they were in our classroom. If you fast forward that to just the for-profit world and not in public education, how do we make our staff feel? How do those that are our team when we walk in every day, do they walk away with, do we allow them to walk away that they're appreciated, that they're honored on a daily basis? And, from our faith-based component, Kevin, that I think you're bringing here in what you're doing in everyday life, it is probably that second greatest commandment. And we're going to go out every day, love our Lord our God with every ounce that we have. And then how are we going to love our neighbor? That's in education or it's in everyday work life and the public sector.
Well said, well said. As we close out this session, just want to have an opportunity. I'm not going to ask you, is Dr. Haworth continuing to learn? Because that's obvious, right? Every day in that aspect. What's next for Dr. Haworth in his development? What are you focused on at this moment to add value to you?
Yeah, so Yeah, I think it goes back. I would be remiss to just think about it as me. I've been married for 30 years.
Congratulations.
And so it's what does that look like together? As my wife and Amy, a big part of where I've gone, and would not have been able to have any of those experiences without her. So it's how do we move together, and how do we see whatever that mission field looks like, Kevin, wherever we're at. And so we believe it's going to be here for this tour, and the Lord determines what that tour looks like for us. It's grounded. So who are we going to surround ourselves with? We're new to the community, and that's the aspect of our church life, our social life. It's all of those pieces working together, but it's very much how we are going to do that. But you're right, that's going to continue. And so where do those experiences come from? You've got to be looking, and you've always got to be ready to step through that door when God opens it up. So Kevin, thank you for allowing me to have this opportunity just to get to reconnect with you. And I'll stop where I started. I want to know your secret for not aging. So if you pass that along, I'd love to hear. But in all seriousness, Kevin, humbled that you would think of me here today, and great opportunity to reconnect. And so thank you for both of those opportunities.
Well, the respect and feeling is mutual. I've always felt from the first time I met you, my friend, that you're an individual that has trust nailed down, whether it's earning it from the get-go, the first discussion, very much trusted, and you're a trustworthy individual. But the way and the manner of which you've carried the passion and the purpose that God has presented for you on this earth, I don't know that I've met anyone who's been as consistent throughout their life in that regard. And you have touched thousands of lives that are benefiting from that today. And I'm humbled. I'm honored that you are here, my friend. And what great words of wisdom. And I just appreciate you so much. And thank you for what you're doing, what you've done in education, or what you're doing there in Allen County now as leader of the United Way. God bless you, my friend.
Yeah, God bless you, Kevin. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Haworth. I hope that you have found something to take away from the 2 episodes from Dr. Haworth. I've got a lot of notes that I'm writing down as soon as we're done with this recording. But Dr. Haworth, I think, as we sum it up, is a leader who inspires through the heartbeat that he helps provide the passion around. First, it was in education for more than 30 years, his personal life. And I know the family, they're wonderful individuals, and they are a model for any family in our country or world today to follow. And I know Dr. Haworth is available for you. If you have questions, would like to reach out, just go to the United Way of Allen County website. It's how I reconnected and got in touch. It's there, and I know he would be open to share anything he could help you with as you work to lay out your leadership program going forward. Thank you for joining this episode of Leadership Synergized. Remember, in the words of Coach John Wooden, we should lead being quick, but we don't have to hurry. Be still. Psalm 46:10, be still and know that I, He, am and is God. Thank you. God bless you. I appreciate you.